I'm going to start this video by just flat out saying it. I hate Puma's naming system. It's just too confusing. These are the Puma Ultra 3.1. No, that's not the top end, like third generation of this particular boot. It's the first generation, third tier takedown. I just hate it. I hate Puma's naming system so much just because it confuses me and I'm simple and I can't get my head around it. Anyway, Puma Ultra 3.1, that is today's review. Is it worth your money? Should you be picking up Puma takedown models? They don't get a lot of coverage. We're changing that here on Boot Wizard. Remember to like the video, get subscribed to the channel, and if you can support us, please head to patreon.com/bootwizard. You can of course pick these up if you would like to by clicking the top link in the top pinned comments down below. Let's get into it. Is the upper any good on these boots? And let's see how many times I say the name wrong in this review. So as I say, this is the third tier takedown in the Puma Ultra line, being Puma's speed boot, and that puts it right alongside the Nike Superfly 8 Academy or the Vapor 14 Academy, or of course the X Ghosted 0.3 laced or laceless, puts it right in there. And it's basically around the same price. So is it any good compared to those boots? Well, we'll start with the upper, which is a mesh-based synthetic. And you know what? It is okay. Now, Tim and I, when we reviewed the 2.1, gave the upper a lot of stick for being basically too stiff and too thick. This actually isn't quite as thick. The material isn't as nice being the mesh instead of the woven upper, but the way that it's constructed means that it's okay. You do get quite a few little creases in the upper, which I don't particularly like, and it says down here that it has the grip control element. If it does, it's just the TPU top coating. It's nothing particularly special. It's a one-piece upper, which you don't get on the 2.1. So where we wanted that 2.1 to be a really special two-piece upper that would really be something different, what Puma have gone for here is the one piece, because essentially it makes their takedown model look that little bit more premium. And it's not overall a bad looking boot, and it's not too far different from what you might expect from that upper end model. You could maybe mistake them from a distance. You then of course can see that mesh base running through the tongue section and up into this collar. I always hate the way that these collars are finished in kind of like a neoprene with stitching, but there's nothing negative performance wise here. On the inside, you've got an internal liner, which isn't overly cheap. It's okay. Then you've got some foam padding in between the upper and the liner. Overall, it feels a little flimsy, I suppose, in hand, and it's just like a bit of material that's been put together, and it doesn't seem to have been constructed with any particular structure in mind, but it's also too stiff because of how that plastic top coating actually is. I'm not saying it's bad, particularly for the price that you pay for them. They do really sit alongside the Ghosted and the Mercurial in terms of standard, but when it comes down to it, I actually prefer the upper on both the Ghosted and the Mercurial when compared to this 3.1. So the Academy and the 0.3, I prefer it both to the 3.1 Puma Ultra. Traction. This is an area similar to the Puma Ultra where the boot actually does shine through. You get exactly the same stud shape and stud pattern. It's still advertised as FG-AG. On the whole, this is a very nice, aggressive sole plate and stud pattern. It doesn't kind of reduce your aggressiveness like you would get with something like an MG plate that you have on the Nike Academy level variations, and it looks and feels fairly similar to that top end model. You get a decent amount of bend and flex, and you know what, the spring back isn't bad. I actually think that the construction of the sole plate on this boot is actually better than what you get on the Ghosted particularly the ghosted, but also on the mercurial. I think Puma have done a really good job here, and the materials that they've used are actually excellent. You would maybe consider them a bit too aggressive for an AG pitch, but they are listed as FGAG, but for an FG pitch, I think this is really, really good, and the quality that you get, the way that this works and responds for a boot at this price point is actually really, really good. So that's a massive plus, and like I say, better than the other two main boots that fall into this category at this price point. Let's take a look at the weight. These come in at 216 grams, which is my standard size US 8, which is perfectly adequate. Like, there's nothing wrong with that for a boot at this particular price point. You could put that weight on a top end boot and nobody would complain. So, well, 215 grams now. Oh, dodgy scales. 215 grams. If weight is a primary concern for you at this price point, this is fairly hard to beat, and that's pretty good. I've mentioned the price and the comparisons to other boots at this price point a couple of times. What is the price? It is 80 euros, exactly the same as the Vapor 14 Academy. And I will say the same that I always say about boots that are at an Academy price point at full RRP, and that is quite simply that there are better options out there for that kind of money. If you can pick these up, which I do believe you can at the moment from some places, for about 40 euros, then maybe you are talking, maybe you're in a better place to be spending that kind of money. However, at 80 euros, an older top level boot, or even maybe an older Mercurial Pro level colorway, something like that, at that 80 euro price point is going to be a much, much better option. Compared to the other boots around it, they kind of fit in basically the same, but I give the same advice for all of them. Pick something up on sale at a higher level, because this is nothing more than okay. Talking about the fit and comfort, overall these are actually quite surprisingly comfortable boots, which for a boot at this price point is super important. They just feel quite nice on feet, the shape is decent, and they definitely run true to size. In terms of width, there is a reasonable amount of width through there, but there's not a whole heap of give in this central lacing section just here. So if you do have very wide feet, you might struggle to get them on, but on the whole, there's a good amount of width in here, and the upper does give a little bit, so you will be fine if you just have kind of a wider foot. Issues that I have are mainly around things like the heel padding here. The heel padding is a very slick material just in here, and I definitely want to feel more locked into the heel. There is not enough lockdown in this heel area for my liking, particularly when you start running, you start sweating, any kind of moisture on that heel liner, and you feel like you're gonna slip, which combined with the overall kind of fit that I think needs more heel lockdown, just a reshaping of the heel area, isn't actually fantastic. The lockdown is decent, like it's okay. Aside from, you know, the heel area, the midfoot lockdown is actually okay. And the responsiveness, it's kind of in two parts. You can kind of feel that the stud pattern, stud shape is good when you push off and you don't feel like you're gonna slip or anything like that, but the upper itself just seems to lack structure. So when you really apply pressure to any of the outer material, it tends to go, and I find my foot feeling like it's coming over the edge of the boot, so it doesn't feel like the most responsive upper in the world. But again, we are talking about an 80 euro budget price point boot here, so there's only so much that you can expect, and as I say, it pretty much holds its own with most of the other boots that are around this area, with some positives and some negatives. But as I always say, I'm not gonna heavily recommend this because I can't, because simply there are better options out there if you spend the 80 euros on a boot that is on sale. Have you picked up the Ultra 3.1 or even the 2.1? Let me know down in the comments and let me know what you think. You should definitely check out Tim and me reviewing the 2.1 because that was a lot of fun. We weren't impressed by it whatsoever. And do remember to like this video, get subscribed to the channel for all of my future content, takedowns, top ends, all the brands. But that's all from me here today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon.